Oh, hammock time. So a word came up to me the other day that I hadn't thought about in a long time. It was Sonder. And if you don't know what Sonder is kind of like a realization that every person in the world has their own unique story. So it's thinking, you have your whole life and most of your life is around your life. But it's realizing that every person that you walk by on the street has a whole collection of emotions and feelings and years and experiences, and they have their own home and their own you know TV shows they like and foods they like, and it kind of, you're just thinking about how immense the world is outside of yourself. I used to say that the world revolves around me as kind of a joke. But that's the way it is with most people. They really do think that the world revolves around them because in some ways it does. When I say the world revolves around me, it's because my perception of the world is from me. And everyone's perception is like that. It doesn't mean the world's like that. It just means that your perception is from you. Um, Now, we do have this thing called empathy that allows you to kind of step outside of the box and think about other things and maybe try not to think about yourself, which is what Sonder is. Sonder is kind of an empathetic view of, oh, let me think about other people for once, right? So humans are not completely selfish, but we are selfish, and that's okay. There's all kinds of good things that come with selfishness too, you know, survival, that sort of stuff. Um, but I was thinking about that, and I remembered when I was a kid on the school bus. So we had a fairly long drive. We lived in North Carolina at the time, and had a fairly long drive to school. And I just remember sleeping on the bus because that's what I do. I was tired waking up in the morning, and I'd put my head over on the window, and it would just be jarring, but I'd somehow find a way to go to sleep. But whenever the bus would stop, I'd hear it make the air brake noise, and my eyes would open up, and I'd be looking out the window, and maybe watching somebody get on the bus. I mean, I was super young. I mean, this is probably like third or fourth grade, and I'd try to focus on one piece of grass. Just try to look at one piece of grass. Now, back then, my vision was probably good enough to actually do that. But I would try to focus on one piece of grass, and then I would say, I wonder if anyone's ever stepped on that piece of ground. Right where that piece of grass is. Because you think about it, the world is massive. And it could be plausible, though, that throughout history, there's a spot where people have never stepped. They've stepped all around it, but not in that one spot. A foot has never set down there. And that's kind of cool to think about. But then you start thinking, well, there's been Native Americans here. They probably did because they were here for a long time. Not forever, but a long time. And what are the odds that someone hasn't stepped on that spot? And I was like, well, maybe they rode horses on that spot, but maybe they never actually stood on it. And, this is probably a useless thought in the end because you'll never know the answer to it, and it's not going to pay your bills or clean your house, but it's just something kind of fun to think about. Was there ever a caveman, a Neanderthal, that was walking around and just happened to stand on that spot? Maybe spots that were underwater that have never been touched. You think about how vast the planet is, that there are places that we've never explored. We've never been. There are places in the Everglades where we don't know that anyone's ever been. But also the world changes so much. So places you would think people have walked. Sometimes there are places that people would have never walked, because you could take a field like this and this field's been here for a long time, but it wasn't always here. This field was woods at some point, and maybe those woods were a field at some point. It makes you feel pretty small. And all that's until you start to realize how big the universe is, and then you feel insanely small. But all this life, and this is going to sound like, and it probably is pretty much exactly the same as The Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan, which is a pretty cool concept where I can't remember what satellite it was that we sent out, and it turned around and it took a picture of Earth. And I can't remember if it was on Saturn or not. I'd have to go back and look at it, and I'm not doing it right now because it's hammock time. But basically it took a picture, and in that picture there was like a beam of light from the sun as basically a glare, and in that was this little tiny blue dot, and they call it the pale blue dot, right? And as he puts it, and I'm paraphrasing, every human that's ever existed, every death, every bit of life, every happy moment, sad moment, every dictator, every Mother Teresa, every religion, every human emotion, everything, every experience of humans that we've had is on this little dot, which is, he said, it looks like it's suspended in a mote of dust, like a mote of dust. Boy, we are small. Enough philosophy for a moment. But related, what about them UFOs? One of the things that's funny about UFOs is, as I say, as soon as you know what a UFO is, it ceases to be a UFO. It's no longer a UFO. Everyone equates UFOs to mean aliens, but it doesn't mean aliens. It just means an unidentified flying object. If you see a bird off in the distance, and you're like, I don't know what that is. Guess what? That's a UFO. Congratulations, you've just seen one. You think there's something out there? Considering how small we are on this planet, how tiny everything is, it would seem that it's impossible that there's not something out there. That doesn't mean there is. Just because it seems impossible doesn't mean it's not. It does not. This right here could be completely unique in the universe, or multiverse, if that's what you believe in. Or outside of the universe, whatever you believe in. It's all I'll ever know. I guess that's all I know. But boy, do I enjoy it. All right, I think hammer time's over. Hammer time is definitely over. I think hammock time is over. I've run out of things to say. What a great thing.